Right, as promised, high street decline. Now, we all know what's going on here. Generally, the further out you go, again, talking about charities last time, the high street seems to be full of charity shops. They're getting the places cheap because they're a charity, and obviously the goods pays for the rent, etc. Not sure how much money actually gets to the charities, but we'll see. High street decline. Now, when I was a kid, you used to walk into a shop. There used to be a shopkeeper sitting there who was the owner. He owned the building. He owned all the goods. Didn't have any loans, and was friendly, and we all knew them. And in some cases, out in the sticks, this is still the case. Then you get the big people coming in. Woolworths, stuff from America. We had Woolworths, we had Bon Marche, but they didn't really get in the way. There was still many small shops that all had stuff in it that you couldn't get, and because there was they didn't have any rent issues and they didn't have any loan issues, they kept the same stock for years and years. So you always knew you could get whatever, You always knew you could go in there and knew they had one if you spent the time on the bus getting there. So the high street suddenly got to the point where many more big shops, all the little ones all shut, big corporations again, shareholders and all that they've got to pander to. So obviously the price of the goods came down a bit, but that was offset by the fact that the councils started to put yellow lines everywhere and force you to park in certain places where they then charge you. And then they knew for a fact that you were going to be more, you weren't going to remember what time you put down or anything. So they made money from the parking tickets, so it wasn't worth really going to the high street because 2 hours or 3 hours wasn't enough. Some of them you can buy a ticket, stay there, and then pay on the way out, and then you get a shock because it's £7 something, these days. So there's that. What was one of the things that I thought not, because when I moved to Milton Keynes, 1984, and there's 10,000 parking spaces, all free. But that didn't last very long. The council suddenly decided, by the time we actually left there, in about 2005, you were putting pounds in the meters just to go shopping at their shopping centre. Before, I'm surprised the shops didn't go bonkers. I would have done, but they're not really bothered as long as you turn up. But how many people don't turn up now? In the end, I never used to bother going up there unless I walked from the office at lunchtime. So parking was a big offset. The big shops were a big problem, and I used to drive the property director for Argus, and he admitted it. He said, we're cheaper, but we are destroying the high street, no doubt. The more goods you've got in a catalogue, and especially if you can keep it all in the warehouse, you're just going to destroy everybody else. But you get run-of-the-mill stuff, whereas in a little shop held by a single person who's an enthusiast generally, like all the little guitar shops and things I used to go to. One of the guitar shops I used to go to in London, the chap wrote the Gibson book for the guitars. They were all enthusiasts. Now they're workers who don't really give a monkeys. They don't know anything about anything. I was in the special sales team at John Lewis, and I had to know every single department in John Lewis. I'd go to the staff office in the morning and get allocated either somebody who hadn't come in or somebody who was off sick or whatever, and I'd have to go and sell whatever was in that department. But yeah, John Lewis is one of the better ones because it basically has a lot of very well trained staff, very good quality items, but it's a bit expensive. But on the other hand, you get what you pay for. You know, I've got stuff from John Lewis that I bought from their sort of equivalent of a staff sale, and we've still got it. You know, that was again, that was 1984. Maybe I was at John Lewis for another 4 years in Milton Keynes. Maybe one or yeah, I think 1987. I think I left. So yeah, I was there in Milton Keynes for a while, where I was special sales team. And yeah, that was when I bought the stuff. We've still got it now. So yeah, so the yellow lines, the one-way systems, shutting off whole areas for pedestrians is a relatively good idea. But you'd be better off putting glass over it from one end of the high street to the other. You know, it's just one of my ideas years ago, probably because I got wet a lot. Now, in the Philippines, you've got massive shopping centres, 7 floors high. On the 7th floor, there'll be a 25-screen cinema. You know, there's ice rinks, everything. People go there for the day. There's one whole floor of food, and all the others are all little shops owned by individual people. Funnily enough, one of them, I came across a Marks and Spencer's, which I was quite amazed. But I bought a packet of biscuits in the Marks and Spencer's, chocolate biscuits. By the time I got home, all the chocolate had run out of the packet into the bottom of the carrier bag. It was that hot. So Marks and Spencer stuff wasn't really very good for hot climates. But High Street declined. Now, the only way, because of the internet now as well, that's really put the dampeners on stuff. I mean, we were going to go for, where I live in Wales, the nearest town is Cardigan. And I was going to open some shop units there, a little cafe and 3 little shop units. Now they're so cheap that it was almost silly not to do it. But you'd have to do eBay from there as well in order to make any money, because there's no footfall. That's because people have sort of given up. They've all gone online now. So what should happen is the government should ban all parking charges for a start. The shops shouldn't be leased. They should be able to be freehold and bought. That's another thing. Split everything up into small units. So you've got one person selling his hobby, basically. So he's okay to stay there. I mean, some of these big shops now that are closing, like B&H and that, I mean, we've seen a television programme where they split the whole shop up into small units. And people are, oh, I knit hats. I'm going to do a hat shop. Things like that. You know. So interesting things that people want to come and have a look at. And not turning the stock over like mad. You don't have to do that. You know, in the Philippines, you go into a clothes shop and they've got clothes they might have had 10 or 20 years ago. Still there and all still in the rack. You know you're going to get something. And the variety is just terrific. Not some of these boutiques you go into that have got 3 dresses or 3 shirts, or, you know. This had rows and rows of stuff, a bit like TK Maxx has now. You can go in there and always find something unique. So that's that. How long we got? That looks like, can't see, 9 minutes. That's not much. So yeah, so let's have a think. The high street should be preserved as it used to be, really. So take out the parking in the yellow lines, make it 2-way again, one way if it's only narrow. All the shops back to small, personally owned shops, where people can build up their business and know they're not going to, you know, with no overheads basically. So you don't want rent and you don't want loans taken out for goods. Then they're in Cardigan, they're the people who are surviving, and they're happy to go there and sit down. And they might employ one person who can be flexible hours. If they've got kids and have to go to drop them off at school and pick them up later, just do 10 till 2, you know. That sort of thing. So, and then the government will have to take VAT off, would be a good one. So there's an incentive for people to shop in high streets again. Not so much that they have to shop in the high street, just enough for there to be, oh, I might as well get that. Oh, we'll go shopping, I might as well get that. Lace the whole high street with food, all different things, so that people go there for their food as well. So it's a day out. It becomes a day out. That's the thing. Right, what we want to, this is a consultation, so what we want to hear from you is all the ideas you think would help. Obviously most people will be on the internet too. The trouble with eBay and PayPal, unfortunately, is you've automatically lost 13% about. You know, eBay take quite a lot of money considering, you know, how much they get. Of course, if they've got shareholders, they've got to pay shareholders now. And the only people who can afford the shares are the rich people. So the rich people get the money. You don't want any of that. You know, we want some sort of free system run by the government where shops in general, basically, title, and you can go on there, all the goods you've got in your shop, you can spend time photographing it and putting it on, no fee, and then when they sell, maybe you could put, even if you put 1 or 2%, you know, to keep the website going, and to help with upkeep of the high streets, for instance. You know, it can all pay for itself. And then PayPal take another lot of your money. So people aren't bothering unless you get the stuff from China for like 50p each and sell the stuff for £5, which a lot of people are doing, but even that bubble's bursting. And then it's generally rubbish as well. I mean, some of the stuff I've bought, like we buy these £10 heaters, and they either catch fire or blow the little fuse inside, which you can't. If you do buy it, you've got to basically take the whole thing to pieces and take rivets out and stuff like that to put the new thermal fuse in, which I'm doing downstairs here at the moment, to try and get some of our heaters working. Unless you buy a good make, obviously, but they're Chinese, you know. And people are probably buying those for £2 and selling them for 10. Now that kind of stuff on eBay, but what happens is then eBay gets filled up with pretty much junk. One good thing I've seen on eBay is second-hand clothes. People are now, instead of dumping everything down the charity shop, all the good stuff is now going on eBay, which is stuff they've used once or twice, you know, which is good. We're going to have to do that. You know, people might think, oh no, I can't do that. But when they go to the shop and buy something, 100 people might have had that on first, trying it on. It's the same thing. So why are you bothering? So high street decline. Is it to do with the parking? You tell me. Is it because of the big shops? You tell me. Is it because of the internet? You tell me. Is it all free? How can we stop it? Like I say, we can stop it by a VAT incentive, cutting the VAT out. But if you go to the high street, that'd be perfect. There's too much VAT. 20% is absolutely ridiculous. The government get 20% of every pound you spend. You know, that's ridiculous. And what do? Dig out their duck ponds. Give themselves big expenses. You know, that's the trouble. When MPs who get voted in suddenly go from probably nothing, or 10,000 or whatever, suddenly go up to £86,000 a year for a salary, or whatever it is, 75. And then some of them £130,000 in expenses. How do you do that? You know, so they can afford to take money off the VAT. Except, you know, I've got a feeling the government owe more, and they can't even pay the interest. So, you know, anything like VAT and that's going to be helping them, but that's not our fault, that's their fault. So that's it. So tell us what you think, and hope to hear. Thanks a lot.